This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Hawke's Bay, your community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
Good morning, it's Nikki Mountain here from Dyslexia Unpuzzled, right here in Hawke's Bay. Welcome to our monthly podcast where we dive into incredible stories of transformation and triumph from our members of our community. At Dyslexia Unpuzzled, we're passionate about supporting neurodiverse individuals and their families to overcome challenges, whether it's with learning, focus, or navigating life with neurodivergence. As always, we are broadcasting on Radio Hawke's Bay, 104.7 FM and 1431 AM. This month I am thrilled to welcome Lee Tempest from VisAble, which is a safeguarding organisation. You can find them at www.visable.co.nz. Lee, firstly, thank you for coming along this morning.
Yeah, hi Nikki, lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. So firstly, are you able to tell us a little about your background and what drew you into your current role as a child-to-parent violence and abuse lead?
Yes, first and foremost, I'm a parent to two neurodivergent children who are both adopted and have both had prenatal exposure to drugs and alcohol and trauma. So that's my most important role as a mum. I've got a social work background, and I got offered my job because I met through Hobbs at an abuse and state care inquiry where parents were giving feedback about not being able to access any support for the parents who experienced child-to-parent violence in their homes and were just ignored or gaslighted, and that led to really dire outcomes for some families, which included some of their children having to go into care.
Okay, that's that's incredible, Lee. So you deal with child-to-parent violence, which, to be honest, this is something I wouldn't have thought would be a thing in our community. It's quite confronting. So how common is it? And why do you think it's not something that's widely talked about?
Well, it's very common. It's a lot more common than what people think. Parents don't talk about it because there's a really unhealthy discourse in society that if your child is violent to you or has antisocial behaviour, it's the parent's fault and it's due to their parenting, which actually just is not true. And we can see this discourse with the boot camps and with everyone wanting to punish children or punish parents when their children don't fit into a box rather than give support. So it's very common. There's no prevalent studies within New Zealand at the moment. So parents are just left to flounder or not believed. And there's a lot of shame attached to child-to-parent violence. It breaks that child-parent bond, really, because where their parents are seen to be protectors of their children was actually sometimes they might need protecting from their child if their child is violent to them. And that breaks all societal rules, really. There's a lot of shame, a lot of stigma attached to it, and there's a lot of gaslighting from other people, like family members might say, oh, they're good for me when I have them, so it must be your parenting. Or professionals say, you need to go on a generic parenting course, which it just doesn't work. So prevalent studies internationally have shown different prevalence. Some studies put it at 1.2% of the population. Other studies put it around 25% of the population. So they're very varied, but it really studies, you have to be led by the methodology that they use. Right. Was they researching children in the youth justice facilities? Were they looking at a certain age group, like 14 to 17-year-olds? What was their research, what they were looking at? Because that will inform percentages, really.
Yeah, that's pretty frightening statistics there, isn't it, really? So I'm just wondering how does a situation manifest into a scenario where a child is violent towards their parent? Are there particular patterns or circumstances that you see time and again?
So there's many reasons why a child can be violent to a parent, and maybe firstly I need to break down the types of violence that parents experience, because a lot of people think violence is just caused by like physical violence, which could be hitting, biting, pinching, strangling, kicking, slapping, punching, using weapons, lighting fires, and people might think of violence as physical. So a lot of parents might not realise that they're actually living with child-to-parent violence because it's become so normalised in their home. And it might be a good day if they're just verbally assaulted rather than physically assaulted. But violence can include verbal, which is insults, threats, humiliating, intimidating the parent, or it can be coercion and controlling and then bullying them. So coercion is a big thing in child-to-parent violence, and I think probably in a lot of family violence situations as well, with all types of violence. And coercion, people think they're going mad sometimes, but it might be that the child doesn't let the parents sit in the lounge and watch their television programme. They might not let the parent go out to meet their friends. And so they coerce the parent to do what they want. And it's really hard to define coercion because it can be quite subtle, but it can be quite out there as well. And gaslighting the parents, you made me do that. It was your fault that I hit you because you made me do it because you didn't give me what you wanted. You're a terrible parent.
Oh.
Or it can be financial, stealing from the parents,
right.
Manipulating them to get money. It can be property damage, and property damage is a really big thing. It's holes in the walls, doors smashed windows, furniture, smashing the furniture up, trashing the house. Personal belongings can be taken and destroyed as well. It could be hurting pets, strangling or kicking them, hitting them or throwing them, or neglecting or torturing them. Sexual and anyone who wanted sexual action, including sexualised behaviour. I think there was a study in the UK of parents, and 17% reported unwanted sexualised behaviour towards them. Self-harming. They can cut in front of people, send photos of their injuries to their parents or to other people, threatening to harm themselves to get their demands met to their parents. They might get out a knife and say, unless you do what I want you to do, I'm going to cut and harm myself. And it can be digital as well, sending threatening messages to the parents or phones, photos or online bullying. So the parent might be out for the day, or they might be at work, and they might be bombarded with messages bullying their parents, telling them what they're going to do to them when they get home if they don't have their demands met. So it can be really intense and really full on. And it can be some parents have violence towards them daily. Some might have it weekly, some might have it monthly, and some might just be once or twice. So it's varying degrees as well. And then you asked if there's any particular patterns or circumstances that you see time and time again. Generally, the violence, there is a pattern of behaviour and where it starts, and it can escalate as the child ages. And the children with ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, can be more susceptible to being violent, and that's because they've experienced trauma. Children who use substances as well, they can be more prone to be using child-to-parent violence and coercion to get money for their drugs, or it affects their mental health and their capacity and impulse control. Another one could be neurodivergence. There's higher rates among the neurodivergent community of child-to-parent violence and abuse as well. And mental health as well. Mental health can play a big part. If the child's got mental health diagnosis, right, that can make them more at risk as well.
Yeah. So is there quite a strong representation from neurodivergent people?
Yes, there is, unfortunately. And that's not because the child is the problem. Quite often the problem is within society and the lack of accommodations that are made to support the child.
Right.
Neurodivergent families get very little in the way of help and support.
They do
from services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of frustration there from both parties, I would imagine.
Yes, and I think it's the child's not accommodated at school. That's not to say that that's the school's fault. There's some amazing teachers. There's also some not so good teachers who don't understand either. Mm-hmm. But the schools aren't funded properly by the government. So you might have a neurodivergent child going to school. The school doesn't accommodate their needs because they haven't got the resources to do so. Mm-hmm. And the child holds it in all day. And then they get home to their safe space and they're like a bottle of shaken Coke. And you undo the top and it just explodes and the parents can be targeted. Or they might be bullied. There's higher rates of neurodivergent children being bullied by others at school because they don't fit social norms. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of trauma going on for them throughout the school day. And these little bits of trauma build and build and build. And then they just can't cope. And also they have sensory issues going on, so they might be overwhelmed by the lights, the environment, and everything going on. Even taking them shopping can be overwhelming for children with sensory stuff going on. Yeah. So that can lead to manipulation.
I can imagine.
I do know.
So this time of the year, I can imagine, would be sort of sensory overload with Christmas carols and jingle bells and goodness knows what else going on at the moment. That would be.
Yeah. As Christmas can be a very, very stressful time for parents living with child-to-parent violence. I do know that there was a recent research came out this year by Professor Gibbs from Otago University, and it was looking at caregivers' experiences of raising children with FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And she found that 57% of caregivers with a child with FASD experienced violence towards them in their home.
Wow, that's half. That's incredible.
And FASD is not recognised. It's recognised as a disability, but government consistently refused to recognise it as a disability that lacks any funding. So these are high and complex needs children who don't get any funding from the government. So the families don't get anything unless there's an intellectual disability present and they meet criteria. But current criteria excludes them from any services, really, funded services. And I think this can be seen as a big contributing factor to the violence in their homes because there's a lot of stigma around FASD as well, and shame. And I think this all contributes towards child-to-parent violence and abuse. I do know there's been research in the UK as well that has found similar rates, 56%, one study found, of children with ASD, parents living with child-to-parent violence, and another support network found it around 25%. So it's very big, high within the neurodivergent community, and I think a lot of that's due to lack of support in society and lack of accommodation and just brain-based differences.
Yeah, well, that's unbelievable, isn't it? It's pretty frightening. So when I think of child-to-parent violence, the first image that came to my mind was a burly teenage boy being violent towards his mum, because they're often bigger than their mothers. Is that a stereotype or is there some truth to it? Yeah.
That's a stereotypical myth. Yes, some child-to-parent violence can start in adolescence with the hormone and puberty changes. And if you're neurodivergent, and you go to college and with school, the college work gets far harder and you don't get the support that you need. So that can emerge. But actually, a lot of studies have found that child-to-parent violence more commonly starts in early childhood.
Oh, does it? As early as that?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, some parents have reported it starting in infancy and toddlerhood, where the child will have very difficult behaviours, like when you go to dress them, they might go rigid, or they might bite you, or and then it just carries on from there. Others have reported it starts around age 5. Other people said middle childhood. So it's very variable. So it can start at any time in childhood, and usually it escalates as the child gets older. And interestingly, most parents don't report child-to-parent violence because they might go to their GP, or they might go to a social work agency that supports families, and the behaviour is minimised, or it's a wait and see if they outgrow that behaviour, because it might just be developmental, or parents are put on generic parenting courses, or they're blamed for their parenting. And actually, you know, that's all the wrong trajectory to take for families experiencing this form of harm.
Yeah. So, what support is available for parents in this situation? Is there anything?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. Can I just talk about some common myths about?
Absolutely, please.
Because a lot of people say it's bad parenting. And so the first myth is only children who have witnessed domestic abuse or violence in the home will go on to abuse a parent or caregiver. Mm-hmm. Now, it is true that it can be a learned behaviour, a social learning theory that children have seen it in the home, and that can happen. But a lot of the time there's no violence in the home, and it's not being witnessed by the children growing up. Another myth is only a certain type of family is impacted. And that's not true either. Parents in high socioeconomic families, families that are well educated, families that are poor, it's found in all families across New Zealand, not just in certain families. So that's a myth. And there's another myth, it's caused by bad parenting. This is nothing to do with bad parenting. It can be some of the time, but most of the time it's nothing to do with parenting. It's a different issue. Another myth is child-to-parent violence and abuse only happens where a child has an additional need or mental health condition. So it happens in all families. I don't want to say this is a neurodivergent problem, because it's not. It's an everybody problem. But it is more likely to occur due to the lack of accommodations in society and understanding of children who are neurodivergent. And the last myth is if there is a simple solution. It's not a simple solution. You can't put parents on a 6-week parenting course and say, it's your fault to do this parenting course and it will be fine. Sometimes those parenting courses can actually make the violence worse in the home, because they might insist on using a rewards chart or star chart. Right. And when your child doesn't make those rewards, that can lead to an increase in violence. Right. So really, you need a multidisciplinary, teams response that understands what's going on, and that doesn't currently exist for child-to-parent violence in New Zealand. Parents are just being left. It's a big problem, and families are at crisis level, and some children are being placed back into rangatamariki care because the violence is too extreme and the parents can't cope or keep their other children safe, so the family collapses. Whereas if there's early intervention and recognition, this might not happen.
Wow. Well, that brings me to this next question, Lee, is for parents who are out there, who might be listening and struggling with this but don't know where to start. What would you say to them? Where do they go?
Well, currently parents just are hidden and buried under shame and guilt and fear. And I'd like to say to them, you're not the problem, your child's not the problem, the violence is the problem. I think at VisAble, in my role, we've just released a comprehensive report on child-to-parent violence and abuse. It's on the internet. It's called New Zealand's Invisible Family Violence. And also, so if you've gone on the internet, it's on the New Zealand Family Violence Clearinghouse website, and it's under community research. So that gives lots of information about child-to-parents for both professionals and for parents and caregivers. And it gives some advice about what might help at the end, and resources and what might help. And it looks at international programs as well. Currently there's nothing like that here. But it is a multi-agency response. It requires a team of professionals, because you don't just work with the child, you work with the parents and the siblings as well, because siblings are growing up in a violent home, and the trauma really can affect them as well. So it's a whole family, it's a holistic approach. I've also produced booklets for professionals and booklets for parents and caregivers as well, which can be found on the internet. And we're developing resources to risk assessment and safety plans. And we're trying to raise awareness within organisations and at a governmental level to get this form of family violence recognised in New Zealand. But it's going to be a long, slow process. And I'm not sure with government cutbacks at the moment how long this is going to take to get it recognised and included.
Right. So could you repeat that website again, please, Lee, where people can go to get some help?
Yeah, it's the report is on the New Zealand Family Violence Clearinghouse website, and it's also on the community research website. If you do community research in New Zealand, it will come up. That report will come up.
Wow, thanks so much for that. I'll be certainly having a bit of a look. I've never heard of anything like this. It's just the magnitude of it is quite astounding. So, yeah.
It is astounding. People don't realise how prevalent it is.
No.
And I would say it's very prevalent within New Zealand. And I think as well with people struggling at the moment, that's going to increase family stress as well.
Yes, at this time of the year must be, escalating hugely.
Yeah. Oh, and also as well, I'll give you, if people want to email me, I can send them the report and the booklets directly. Also, VisAble, we run a monthly peer support group for parents living with child-to-parent violence, and it's a safe, non-judgmental space where parents can share and just connect with others who experience this form of family violence. And my email is lee.tempest, TEMPEST at VisAble, VISABLE.co.nz.
Well, that's great, Lee. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope parents out there that have got this issue can reach out to you and get some support with this. So one thing that you wish every family in New Zealand understood about child-to-parent violence, Lee?
It can happen to you.
Simple as that, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It can happen to you at any time.
Cool. Lee, I really appreciate you joining us this morning and shedding light on such an important topic and often a very misunderstood topic. Your insights are invaluable and we're grateful for the work that you're doing to support families in our community. Listeners, I'd love you to hear your thoughts after today's conversation with Lee. This is an issue that deserves way more attention than it gets and certainly some more open discussion. So, would you like to just give that email address again, Lee, please, just in case people out there do want to contact you and if they're experiencing this with their own families?
Yep, it's lee.tempest at VisAble.co.nz.
That's awesome. Thank you, Lee, so much. So if you have any feedback or anything that you would like to share after listening to today's podcast, please either email me or Lee, she's given her email address, or myself at dyslexiaunpuzzled@gmail.com, dyslexiaunpuzzled@gmail.com. Or please connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook at Dyslexia Unpuzzled, or you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram as Nikki Palamountain. That's Nikki with two Ks, NIKKI Mountain. Thank you so much for joining us, Lee. I wish you all the best for the festive season, and I hope you have time with your family and time to rest and relax over the coming weeks. And I would love to connect with you at another time. I'm sure we've got way more things to talk about too.
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you, listeners.
Cool. And thank you, listeners, again for tuning in today on Radio Hawke's Bay, 104.7 FM and 14:31 AM. If you missed part of this program or want to share it with others, it replays on Tuesday at 12 o'clock PM. So spread the word. This is a big issue out there and we need to get some support for parents. So wish you all the very best for Christmas and the New Year, And I'm looking forward to joining you again in 2025. Thank you so much again for listening. Oh, that was amazing, Lee. Gracious. I had no idea. I'm sitting here just about falling off the chair after that.
Oh, you really?
I am staggered. Absolutely staggered. I'd never heard anything like that. I just thought it was, just not even a thing, as I said earlier, but a really minute thing that would happen.
Yeah, and that's what you're battling against. People don't realise it's a problem and don't want to see it as a problem. It's very easy to blame the parents because then they don't have to do anything about it, do they?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Those poor parents out there.
Yeah, and I just said actually that I live.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Hawke's Bay, your community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.